Okay, so you want to own a water park, acres of blue water, a lazy river winding through palm trees you paid a landscaper to fake, a wave pool pushing 4-foot swells every 20 minutes, and a parking lot so full by 11 a.m. that you're turning cars away. You picture the gate receipts, the season pass renewals, the funnel cake stand with a line out the door, and you think, this is just a bigger, wetter version of an amusement park. Build the slides, open the gates, watch the money slide in right behind the kids. Here's what that picture doesn't show you. It's the Tuesday in July when it rains from 11 a.m. to close, and your entire day's revenue evaporates, along with the puddles in the parking lot. It's the $40,000 a year insurance premium increase that shows up the year after a competitor 2 states away has a drowning. It's the fact that you have somewhere between 90 and 120 days a year to earn essentially all of your money, and every single one of those days is being quietly vetoed by a weather system you cannot negotiate with. A water park is not really a leisure business. It is a weather derivative that happens to have slides bolted to it. And once you understand that, everything else about how this business makes money and how it can lose all of it in a single bad summer starts to make sense. Let's start with what a water park even means. Because like the other businesses in this series, one label is hiding several completely different bets. A seasonal outdoor water park is the classic version, open Memorial Day to Labor Day, closed the other 8 or 9 months of the year, entirely dependent on regional weather and school calendars. An indoor water park, often bolted onto a hotel, the Great Wolf Lodge model, runs 365 days a year, regardless of what's happening outside, which sounds like the obvious fix until you see what climate control on an indoor humidity-soaked building costs. A water park that's really a wing of a larger theme park, think the water areas at a major regional amusement destination, shares its fixed costs, its security, its parking, its brand across a much bigger operation, which changes the math entirely. And then there's the small municipal or family-owned regional park, the kind built in the 1980s and 90s on cheap land outside a mid-sized town, competing purely on price with a handful of slides and a big pool. These are not variations on a theme. An indoor resort water park is a hospitality business with a chlorine problem. A seasonal outdoor park is a 100-day sprint that has to fund a 365-day set of bills. Which one you're actually building determines almost every number that follows. Now, what does it cost to get in the door? Because like a gym, the sticker price on the land is the smallest number in the whole exercise. A regional outdoor water park, the kind with 8 to 12 slides, a wave pool, a lazy river, and a children's area, typically needs 15 to 25 acres of usable land, and that's before you touch a shovel. Site development, grading the land so it drains correctly instead of turning your midway into a swamp, running the underground plumbing for every pool and slide, comes to anywhere from $2 to $8 million depending on terrain. Then come the attractions themselves. A single fiberglass body slide, one of the simple twisting tube slides you see in every park, runs $300,000 to $1.2 million installed. A signature attraction, the kind of tower slide a park puts on its billboard, the vertical drop or the multi-lane racer, can run $3 to $8 million by itself. A wave pool with the mechanical systems to generate rideable swells costs $5 to $15 million depending on size. A lazy river, which looks like the cheapest thing in the park, still needs its own pump systems, filtration loop, and a quarter mile or more of engineered channel, and lands somewhere between $3 and $10 million. Add a wristband and locker system, a first aid station built to code, a gift shop, food service buildings, and by the time a mid-size regional water park is ready to open its gates, the all-in cost typically lands between $40 and $100 million. A destination-scale resort water park with a hotel attached routinely clears $150 million before the first guest checks in. Here's the cost almost nobody outside the industry thinks about until they're already committed: water itself and everything required to keep it safe. A wave pool this size can hold anywhere from 500,000 to over 1 million gallons. Every one of those gallons needs to be filtered, balanced, and chemically treated continuously, 12 to 16 hours a day. every operating day. Filtration and chemical treatment systems for a park this size cost $3 to $10 million to install, and then run into six figures a year just in chlorine, pH balancers, and the electricity to push that much water through filtration loops around the clock. Then there's evaporation. A large outdoor water complex in a hot climate can lose tens of thousands of gallons a day to evaporation and splash out alone. Water that has to be replaced, treated, and heated, sometimes at a public utilities commercial rate, before a single guest gets in the pool. None of this shows up in the brochure. All of it shows up on the utility bill. And then there's the cost that dwarfs almost everything else in this business: risk. A water park is structurally a facility built around moving hundreds of people at once through fast water, sharp drops, and deep pools, many of whom cannot swim well, and almost none of whom are paying close attention to their own children. Liability insurance for a water park of any real size is dramatically higher, often several times higher, than for a comparable dry amusement park, and it is priced not just on your own safety record, but on the entire industry's. A serious incident at a competitor's park 3 states away can raise every water park's premiums the following renewal cycle, because underwriters price the category, not just the company. On top of the insurance bill sits the lifeguard payroll. And this is where the seasonal nature of the business collides head-on with the safety requirements. Industry guidance calls for roughly 1 certified lifeguard for every 25 to 50 guests in the water at any given time, depending on the attraction, which means a mid-size park needs anywhere from 100 to 300 lifeguards on payroll during peak operating hours. Certification, ongoing in-service training, and retesting for a staff that size runs into the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And because most of that staff is seasonal, high school and college kids working a single summer, you are essentially rebuilding and recertifying a small army of safety personnel from scratch every single year. Now here's the mechanic that explains everything else about this business, the same way the inactive gym member explained the fitness industry. A seasonal outdoor water park typically operates somewhere between 90 and 120 days a year. Every other business in this series we've looked at spreads its fixed costs across 365 days. A water park has to earn essentially all of its annual revenue, enough to cover a full year of debt service, insurance, permanent staff, and maintenance, inside a window shorter than 4 months. And inside that window, a huge share of the days that actually matter are concentrated into an even smaller number of true peak days. The 4th of July week, the handful of 95-degree Saturdays, the last 2 weeks before school starts. Miss those specific days to a rainstorm, and you don't get them back. There is no rescheduling a water park Saturday in July. The day is gone, the fixed costs for that day were incurred anyway, staff still had to be paid, chemicals still had to circulate, and the revenue that was supposed to fund a chunk of the whole year simply never arrived. This is the single fact that makes water park economics fundamentally more volatile than almost any other leisure business. Your busiest possible day and your slowest possible day are separated not by marketing or pricing, but by whether it rained. To understand how badly this can go and how fast, it's worth looking at what actually happened to Action Park in Vernon, New Jersey. Opened in 1978, it became one of the most famous and most notorious water parks in American history, known for attractions with almost no modern safety engineering behind them, a looping water slide that was closed after just days of testing when test dummies came out decapitated, a wave pool nicknamed by its own lifeguards for how often people had to be pulled out of it. Over its roughly 2 decades of operation, the park was tied to 6 confirmed deaths and thousands of documented injuries. For years it survived anyway, because attendance stayed strong and the litigation was managed one lawsuit at a time. What actually ended the park wasn't a single catastrophic event. It was the slow compounding of the same structural risk every water park carries, until the insurance math simply stopped working. By the mid-1990s, the park's safety record had made it effectively uninsurable at any price the business could sustain, and it closed for good in 1996. The land and many of the original pools are still there today, repurposed and heavily re-engineered under new ownership and a new name. The lesson isn't that Action Park was uniquely reckless, although it was. The lesson is what it reveals about every water park's underlying structure. The entire business sits on top of an insurance and liability foundation. And if that foundation gives way, it doesn't matter how full the parking lot has been all summer. The attraction that draws the crowd and the risk that can end the business are the same attraction. So how does a water park actually make money? In plain mechanical terms, once it survives all of the above, the first and most obvious layer is the gate, the single-day admission ticket, which for a mid-size regional park typically runs $40 to $70, and the season pass, which is priced to look like a bargain against maybe 4 or 5 single-day visits, but is really designed to convert a family into a habit for the entire short season. The second layer, and the one park operators will tell you actually makes the business work, is everything that isn't the ticket. Food and beverage inside a water park routinely generates 25 to 40% of total revenue, sold inside a captive environment where guests cannot leave to find a cheaper option and are, by early afternoon, sunburned, tired, and hungry enough not to argue about an $11 hot dog. Cabana and lounge rentals, a shaded reserved space with waiter service, can run anywhere from $100 to $500 a day and carry margins that make a basic admission ticket look thin by comparison. Then there are lockers, tube rentals, sunscreen, and swim gear sales at the gift shop, and parking, all stacked on top of a guest who is already paid to get in and is now a captive audience for the rest of the day. On a well-run park, non-ticket, in-park spending can rival or exceed the admission revenue itself, which means the real product being sold at the gate isn't a day of swimming. It's 4 to 6 hours of a guest's undivided weather-locked wallet. Now the break-even math, because this is where the short operating season turns from an inconvenience into the central risk of the entire business. Say a mid-size regional water park has annual fixed costs, debt service, year-round management payroll, insurance, permanent maintenance, and off-season upkeep of the pools and mechanical systems of around $12 million. That cost exists whether the park is open or closed, whether it rains in July or not. The park operates for 100 days a year and needs an average of roughly 3,000 paying guests a day. At a blended per guest spend, tickets plus food plus extras of around $90 just to cover those fixed costs before a single dollar of profit shows up. Now, overlay weather. A single mid-size regional water park in a temperate climate can lose 15 to 25 of its roughly 100 operating days to rain, cool temperatures, or thunderstorm closures in an average year, and a genuinely bad summer can take that number considerably higher. Every rained-out Saturday in July isn't a slow day. It's often the single most important day of the entire fiscal year, gone, with the fixed costs for that day already spent and no way to recover the lost attendance later in the season. Let's build the two scenarios: the same park, the same fixed costs, one good summer and one bad one. In the optimistic year, the park gets a hot, dry June through August, the kind of summer where the wave pool is at capacity by 1 p.m. most weekends. Attendance across the season averages close to plan. Food and beverage spend runs strong because hot weather sells more drinks and ice cream, and season pass renewals for next year come in early because the memory of the summer is a good one. A well-run mid-size park in this scenario can generate $25 to $40 million in a single season, with a net margin in the healthy double digits once the short season's revenue is weighed against costs that, remember, had to be covered whether the weather cooperated or not. In the realistic bad year, a wet, cool June pushes back the start of strong attendance by 2 or 3 critical weeks. Several of the Saturdays that were supposed to carry the season get rained out entirely. A competitor 2 towns over opens a new attraction and pulls day trip traffic away. And a minor incident, nothing catastrophic, just a slip and fall lawsuit or 2, pushes next year's insurance renewal up by a meaningful percentage regardless of fault. Under those conditions, the same park with the same fixed costs can see revenue fall 20 to 30% below plan, sliding a comfortable double-digit margin into a thin single-digit margin or an outright loss for the year, while the pools, the payroll, the insurance, and the debt service kept right on accruing through every rained-out day, exactly as if the sun had been shining. The difference between those two outcomes in a single park in a single summer can be well over $10 million, and almost none of it is visible from the outside. There's no dramatic headline, just a wet June, a couple of canceled Saturdays, and a slightly higher insurance bill, compounding quietly against a business that only gets 100 days a year to make its entire case. So if you do decide to open a water park, understand what you're actually buying. You're not buying a summer full of splashing kids and a line at the funnel cake stand. You're buying a business that has to earn a full year's worth of survival inside a 100-day window, insured against a risk that never fully goes away, betting the whole season on a sky you have absolutely no control over.